All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 48. So we are here. It is the beginning of March, first day of March here, and it is a little windy outside today.
Yeah, it has been the last few days.
Yeah, but definitely feeling like spring here in Arizona. You can see why we have spring training here for a good portion of the MLB. Because it is spring here.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So a lot of things we're going to cover with you guys today. Obviously, we have a topic that I think will be important for most people dealing with small spaces. And so we do like covering these things where it may not apply to us, but it applies to most people. So I think that's going to be a good one today. But before we get to that, I want to give you guys a couple of housekeeping notes. So housekeeping note number one would be what, sweetheart?
If you have a question, please write the word question, preferably in caps, before you state your question, not necessarily in caps. That way it stands out to me and I make sure we get to it and don't skip it.
Yes, that will help.
Yes.
And housekeeping note number two would be give us a thumbs up. That helps us not only today, but as we go into perpetuity, as this thing posts and everybody is checking us out. And then number three, Lori's going to be keeping an eye on all the comments. So obviously she's looking for questions, but if you guys have any comments you want to make, obviously she's going to see them, even though I may not necessarily see them. Okay, so you want to pop over. I know we got a couple things we wanted to cover with you guys here before we get to our topic of the day. There's a couple of highlights. I think there's one in particular. Do you remember what I wrote down there to cover with everybody?
For the highlights, that we are in the process of moving our huge wood chip pile.
So you guys have... If you have seen the flyovers that we do at the beginning of the videos and that kind of thing, you've seen the massive amount of wood chips. Now, we haven't gotten a wood chip delivery in a few years, right? I think that was during COVID times when we started getting those. And obviously, we had a lot of deliveries that happened back to back. We got those through Chip Drop. We actually found an arborist that we started working with directly after they did their first Chip Drop. And they were real consistent. And then we lost track of everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And then, of course, we've just been using them since. So we've had somebody come over and move most of them, right? We needed to get some space behind the new pole barn, which you guys will see here soon. And so we needed to get some out of the way because they had some welding to do. And obviously we don't want to do any welding around a dry wood chip pile.
Yeah.
So, but we got some video of that. And what I really I'm looking forward to showing you guys is what it looks like at the bottom of that wood chip pile that's been sitting there, some of it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so we're going to share that with you guys, 5 or so, maybe 6 feet of wood chips. After 5 years in the desert, what does it look like underneath? So that is a video that we will be doing for you guys because people have asked. But yeah, we got that done. And then there's one more thing, right? So we had it. Is Michael, is it Misha or
I don't know.
I'm not sure either. So,
but yes, they are on here.
Okay, very good. Is it Michael? I think it's Michael.
Yeah.
So, but either way, so we had somebody who I believe is here today gift us a tree, and we got it planted today. It was a bare root tree, and it is a 5-in-1 stone fruit tree. Now, we're not going to share with you guys all of the different varieties that are on there, but we didn't have an open spot, so we had to finagle a position. You want to go and throw that up there? We'll show everybody. So yeah, sorry for the maybe the lack of detail there, but. So that is the tree. If you guys know the farm, you'll have an idea of kind of where that's at. And you can see there what the tree looks like. Got a pretty good spread. I don't know what kind of rootstock it is. It didn't state that. But the varieties are definitely not common to us here in Arizona. In fact, while you're there, you want to go over to the left-hand side. Move that to the left. See if you can pick up. Scroll over to the left if you're able to.
Are you saying
Yep,
this?
to your left. Yep. So there's me. Can you see? Go to the left again. One more time. Maybe two. Got to get back to the back corner. There we go. So now you kind of get an idea of where we're at. So if you guys know that area, you've got the kumquats in the back, and if you guys know what would normally be there that has always struggled, and in that picture, it's kind of a Where's Waldo. So that particular plant is no longer there, but they're still in this screen. You don't need to show it. I said Where's Waldo, and then you're cheating.
Like, it's right over
Yeah,
there.
okay, thanks. All right, never mind. So if you guys know, that's where the banana was. So we dug the banana out. We were able to save one of the pups. We lost one of them during transplant. And Lori, it's almost like this is the whole "you can't lie" thing. It's okay if you withhold information. It doesn't count as lying. Either way, so we got that tree planted. So thank you for that. I don't know how it's going to do. There's a peach on there, and that peach had already started breaking dormancy.
Yeah.
It's only been here for a few days, and so we had to put it into a pot. So we'll see. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So we'll see how that goes. We'll share more of that with you guys if we can get that to survive and break out of dormancy here. Mm-hmm. So yes. Is that Pam?
Yes.
Pam, thank you for the super chat. You are such a sweetheart.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Pam. Good to see you here. As is regular.
Yeah. So you guys all guessed it. It was in front of the kumquats, where the banana was, but we did transplant or move the banana. So we didn't totally give up on the banana, but we liked that spot the best for this tree. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And we're going to have to hand water it. So we're going to have some challenges with this one. So we'll see if we can get it to survive here into the spring towards summer. We painted the trunk. We're a big fan of Ivy Organics. In fact, do you have one of those little tubs? Because we're going to need
You know
one.
what? I totally saw that on here and I was like, oh, I need to grab that.
I'll go grab it. You continue.
I'll be
right back, everybody.
Okay. He's leaving us. Okay, so we had a question. So it's tough for me to find wood chips in bulk, but I can get sawdust. What are your thoughts on using that?
Where did you put it?
In the refrigerator where it goes?
Oh, out in the garage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Have you tried Chip Drop? So that's how we usually get our wood chips is go on to Chip Drop a website and request it. But the question was sawdust. What are your thoughts on sawdust if they can't get wood chips?
So that would be fine. So any carbon material will work. The only challenge with sawdust is it's going to move around in the wind. So you're going to see that kind of blows around a bit. In fact, I know Darren and Natalie had sawdust delivered. Do you remember that? And it was everywhere. So just realize that it might blow around a bit. So keep it moist. But yeah, it would be fine. You can definitely do that. Sticks would be fine. Straw is fine. Hay is fine. Any of those carbon materials, so the dry material. If you had grass clippings that are brown, so completely dried, if they're not brown, I just wouldn't get them anywhere near the trunk because they're going to compost down a bit. But you can do that. Dry leaves, so leaves would be fine as well. All of those will work as a mulch and help to hold moisture in, which is the most important thing. So pine shavings, which you can typically find. Even, one of the things that I know we've had a few folks send us pictures that are inside the city. Maybe they're in HOAs, and so they've got some limitations or they can't get wood chips. You can always use the decorative wood chips that Home Depot sells very inexpensively this time of year. So, that will work as well. So any of those would be fine. Sure. So item of the day before we get going. This is straight out of the fridge because that's how you do that. So this is Ivy Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard. You guys know that we have partnered with Ivy Organics for years now. And I can tell you, this is our go-to. So all of our trees, we're going to paint them all again this year. Mm-hmm. It's been, 2 years, I think, since we've painted all the trees. So we've got a gallon of this stuff, should hopefully last us. But this stuff is fantastic, you guys. Obviously, it's organic. If you're planting trees right now, make sure, whether you use the Ivy Organics, which is our preference, and you guys know we have a discount code for them. It's EONFARM, Eon Farm, just like that. We'll get you 10% off at checkout. But if you're not going to use that, the latex paint is fine. You can get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. Just make sure you're painting the trunks, especially on newly planted trees. I'm telling you now, guys, you will kill trees here in the desert if you don't protect those trunks. So please, 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 whether you use the 3-in-1 Plant Guard or you use something else, just make sure you're protecting those young, newly planted trees. Okay, what do we got? So any questions before we jump into the topic of the day?
What are your top 3 favorite stone fruit trees and varieties in our climate?
Okay, so I will tell you, your best bet as far as stone fruit is concerned, in our experience, is peaches. The your Florida Prince, your early Amber, your early Grande. If you're at with Reed, if he's got his Reed's Big Red, whether he does or not. Texas King, any of the early fruiting peach trees are by far the most productive stone fruit and high quality fruit that we've had here. So I would start with that. So now, as far as which one, the Florida Prince is very common, very easy to find. It's a fantastic peach. It's our earliest peach. I would definitely suggest that one over any other just because they're easy to find. As far as other stone fruit, plums, I prefer a Plueri.
I agree.
We've had better luck with those. So a Sweet Treat Plueri so far has been very good. If Reed ever has the Sat Lap again, it's also fantastic. That's a plum cherry hybrid as well.
Yep.
And then I like Apriums. And so the Flavor Delight Aprium is fantastic. Yeah. Obviously, you can do apricots as well, but we prefer the texture of that one.
Correct. The Aprium, which is an apricot plum, so it's it doesn't get as mushy as your apricots do, in our opinion.
Right. I would pass, unless you have the space, I would pass on nectarines. So the nectarines are a struggle.
Yeah.
As much as I love the Santa Rosa plum, we have yet to have a good high quality Santa Rosa plum off that tree. If you want to try almonds, technically those are stone fruit. The all-in-one almond, we've had success with it, just we can't seem to get a harvest thanks to our ground squirrel problem. But they actually do really well, and they've gotten a fruit set on there. So those are good options. And then we're just not cherries. I would skip the cherries just because they're very, very difficult here. We haven't had success with those either. So there we go. I better get to the topic of the day. So if you've got questions, hang on to that. I want to make sure I cover that for everybody who's here because I know this is kind of an important topic. So you guys know that we have plenty of space here. We're big fans of giving all of our trees enough space to grow out completely. So we put most of our trees are on 16-foot spacing. The majority of them are semi-dwarf trees. So we allow them to get they fully develop from a width standpoint or horizontally. They fully develop. And then, of course, we like them to get nice and tall, 12 to 15 feet tall. And semi-dwarf trees can do that. Now, not everybody has the space we do. In fact, the vast majority of you, I'm sure, don't. And that's obviously very common. And so the question is, like the question we just had, what are some stone fruit that you would want to grow? And if you're limited on space, do you have to choose just one? And the answer is no. You probably don't. And, there's some videos out there. I know Dave Wilson video that's been out there for, I think, 15 to 20 years. Shows them doing multiple plantings in a hole, and we've done that as well. We haven't done it here, but we did do it on the old farm as a test. So we wanted to see how they were going to work, and we did learn some things there that we want to share with you guys today. So if you are limited on space and you're not wanting to do a multiply grafted tree, kind of like what we showed everybody earlier today, so if you're not going to want to, those are difficult to manage. And so if you're wanting 2 or more trees, 2 would be really kind of, in my opinion, the most you would want to do. But 2 trees in a single hole or a single planting area, we're going to kind of walk you through the steps of how you would do that. And some things to keep in mind that we've learned that can be challenges. Whether you're here in Arizona or a similar desert climate or not, these will apply no matter where you are. Varieties just may be a little bit different. So the first thing would obviously be make sure that you have irrigation planned. And so, you're going to have 2 trees that aren't necessarily in the exact same hole. I've seen people do that, but I wouldn't necessarily suggest it in the same hole. Giving it a little bit of distance definitely makes a big difference, but it doesn't need to be much, maybe 18 to 24 inches. So the trunks can be about that far apart. If you guys look at the thumbnail from today, excuse me, you'll see that we have 2 trees that are planted about 18 to 24 inches apart. The 2 trees that you're seeing in that picture, I believe, were a Sweet Treat Plueri and a Burgundy Plum. The reason we have those 2 trees there is they are good cross-pollinators. So the Burgundy Plum is a pollinator for the Sweet Treat Plueri, something to keep in mind. So the first thing would be space. About 18 to 24 inches. That's going to give you a hole that's going to be about 3 feet or so in diameter. I like to plant them in 2 separate holes. It doesn't really matter too much because ultimately the roots are going to blend. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So second thing would be the plants themselves. So I prefer to keep like trees together. So stone fruit or pome fruit. So if you're going to do a stone fruit, we were just talking about that. So peaches, plums, apricots, apriums, plueries, even an almond. So that an almond tree, that would be a stone fruit as well. So I would keep the same type of tree. Pome fruit, of course, being apple or pear. I will tell you pear, I wouldn't suggest a pear. So if you want to do a couple different varieties of apple, say like an Anna or a Golden Dorset here in Arizona, or different varieties if you're not here in Arizona is fine. And then same thing with your stone fruit. You could do a peach and a plum or an apricot, something like that. Next thing you want to make sure you're looking at is rootstocks. So you can use dwarfing rootstocks. However, we've had this conversation before. I generally don't suggest dwarfing rootstocks here, only because the trees grow very slowly and they have a hard time getting through our summers because they don't put out enough root growth quickly. Our trees here need to put out root growth very aggressively and very fast, and dwarfing rootstocks don't do that. And so you're planting in the ground. I would strongly encourage you to consider a semi-dwarf rootstock. I think is ideal for a double planted tree. You can still control the size, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute, but you're still going to get that great root growth. The key is it needs to be the same rootstock or very similar, because you don't want one out competing the other. So you're always going to have a dominant tree. We found that to be the case. However, you want to have the same rootstock. If you don't, there's going to be a dominant tree, and you may not wind up with 2 trees. You may wind up with a single tree that basically takes over, because it'll dominate everything. It'll dominate the space. It'll dominate the light. It'll dominate water. It'll dominate your fertilization. And so like rootstocks, not necessarily the tree, like rootstocks are going to be very important. Now, speaking of trees, if you have a very aggressive growing tree, you want to have them both be the same type. So not only the rootstock, but also the tree itself. So some varieties are more dwarfing varieties, and you don't want to do that. So now most of your peaches, apricots, plums, plueries, your basic apple trees on the same rootstock, they're all semi-dwarf trees. They're all going to be about the same size. So you're probably going to be fine. However, you want them to be about the same. So we talked a little bit about the hole. You're going to need about a 3-foot round or square, whatever shape you want to do, hole. You're still going to do your ring design. You're still going to need to do all that for irrigation. That won't change. Now, placement. This is very, very important. I don't think this is covered very often when folks talk about double plantings, but your sun exposure is critical. It doesn't matter whether you're here or you're in another part of the country. You guys know we're big fans of trees being in full sun, fruit trees being in full sun. In this case, you want that as well. However, make sure when you're planting the trunks, you want to have them north and south. You don't want them east and west. So if you figure that's north for us, so here is north, or let's say here is north, here is south, that's how you want the trunks. You do not want them east and west. Okay, so make sure you plant them north and south. The reason being is you need to make sure that you have sun exposure that's even on both trees. If you plant them east and west, the tree that's on the west side is not going to get morning sun, and it's only going to get afternoon blasted. Okay, and it's going to shade the tree on the east side. So what you're going to find is your tree on the east side is going to do really, really well because it's getting morning sun and it's getting afternoon shade. And so that tree will probably do much, much better than the tree that you have on the west side. So again, north-south placement is critical. Again, why I would strongly suggest no more than 2 trees in a hole. Once you get beyond 2 trees, you're going to have some east-west competition in those trees. So make sure you're planting north and south. So we talked a little bit about that. If you can bounce over my notes, I want to make sure I'm covering everything. Need a drink here real quick. So we talked about placement. The next one is going to be pruning. In fact, the topic of today, the reason why we're covering this, the question that I got this week is somebody was watching the video of the thumbnail that you saw. That's from 6 or 7 years ago. So they were watching that video and had not seen how we pruned that tree. So I forwarded them the pruning video. We did prune those, so we showed everybody how to prune those. And you have some options when it comes to pruning. Now, stone fruit and palm fruit, we generally want an open center. So that's how we like our trees. And so from a pruning standpoint, if you're going to do that, and I would suggest that you do, what you want to do is basically treat it as a single tree. So if you're taking the other steps into account that we just discussed, same rootstocks, similar growing trees, put them in a north-south placement when you're planting the trees, you should have two trees that grow about evenly, okay? So what you'll want to do is you're going to want to prune it as if it's a single tree. And so you guys know that we like to have scaffold branches. Each one of them would have a couple of scaffold branches. So maybe northeast and northwest, southeast and southwest. Okay, so you have two scaffolds on each tree. So you would not have scaffolds going towards each other's trunk. And then you would basically keep the center as an open center between those two trees. And then prune it back to that each season. That would be the best way of going about this. So that's basically it. So I think, just to recap, key things to keep in mind: you want to have the same type of tree, stone fruit or palm fruit are ideal for this kind of scenario. You want to have the same rootstock, the exact same rootstock. You want to have two trees that are going to grow at about the same clip, so you don't want to have one dominating the other. So they both need to be semi-dwarf or full-size trees. You want to plant them on a north-south planting, so the trunk one should be north, one should be south of that. And you want to prune them with an open center, utilizing scaffold branches going northeast and southeast and southeast and northeast and southwest, northeast and northwest, southeast and southwest. So that way you have even scaffolding, and you have no branches or scaffolds going towards each other. Hopefully that makes sense. And then, so a couple other things that are going to be critical: make sure you're irrigating obviously both trees. You want to irrigate them at the same time. You should be able to do that with the right hole design and irrigation setup. You can use the double ring design just like we show you here. It's going to be a much bigger ring in the middle for the two trees. So you can definitely do that. And then, so irrigate them at the same time. And the other thing would be fertilizing. So because these two trees are going to be competing with one another, they will be competing. There's no way around that. So the roots are going to be growing into each other. So you want to make sure that you are consistently doing fertilization. You can't skip fertilization. These two trees are going to be pulling a lot of nutrition out of the soil because you have two trees in a very, very small space, and they are going to need nutrition. So what type of fertilizer doesn't matter. A fruit tree fertilizer that's appropriate is fine. It doesn't matter whether it's organic or commercial. Whatever your choice is, we're not here to judge, but make sure you're consistent. For us here in Arizona, that's February, May, and September. If you're going to be using a granular fertilizer or some type of compost. If you're going to be using a liquid fertilizer, you would start that a month from bud break, and you would do that fertilizer all the way through the month that they go dormant. That way you consistently have nutrition for these trees because they're going to need it. Okay? So that's pretty much it. I can tell you, one of the things that I was very impressed with and a little shocked is just how well the double plantings did on the old farm.
Yeah.
Do you remember what we had? We had a flavored grenade pluot and a piacatum. That tree looked like had two trunks.
Yeah.
But those were perfectly, literally they grew at almost exactly the same pace. And it was just a beautiful double trunk and then a tree above it. Very easy to keep it. I will say the pluary and the plum, that was a mistake. Because
the pluary was like
major dominance.
Yeah.
And so the sweet tree pluary is a very, very aggressive growing tree, and the burgundy plum is not.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge. So if you're going to do that combination, you're going to need to do some heavy pruning on the pluary in order to keep them at the same pace. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we made the mistake of planting east and west. And so the piacatum and the flavor grenade did okay. So they were fine there, but the burgundy really struggled because it doesn't grow as fast anyway.
Yeah, and the pluary was so much bigger, and so the burgundy only got afternoon sun, basically.
It got afternoon and midday and afternoon sun.
Yeah.
And it still grew, still gave us fruit,
Yeah.
but the tree couldn't keep up with the pluary. So it took a lot of heavy, heavy pruning and then still really struggled. So those things will all help. And then of course, a low breaking trunk is critical with this. So, when you first plant the trees, give yourself a trunk that's about 2 to 3 feet tall. Knee to waist high for most of us is about 2 to 3 feet. And again, keep that scaffolding, and it works. It really works.
You can do it.
Yeah, it definitely works. So some things that I wouldn't do this way. Mulberries, I wouldn't do mulberries this way. They're way too aggressive. Could you do figs this way? Probably. Figs shouldn't be a problem. You just have to make sure you prune them. It's basically you're dealing with the same thing, but just remember, figs grow at different paces. And so like a blackjack fig and a brown turkey fig, that's a bad combo because the brown turkey can't keep up. Or excuse me, the blackjack can't keep up. And then, you have a panache, very tall, vertically growing, you're going to be challenged. But I think it's a cool challenge, for me. And definitely stone fruit and pome fruit, go for it if you don't have the space. So you basically double your planting space, get double your amount of trees in there. And by far a preference over a multi-grafted tree. So, because you have a tree that is going to be able to take care of itself. So, yeah, good. So, questions. I imagine we have a few.
All right. So, as the wood chips break down and become soil, do you find that they clog the water channels around the trees?
You want to talk about that? I'm going to have another drink of hydration, not alcohol.
Yes, we are finding that is the case. So it is on our list to start going in and at least clearing out kind of the channel that goes from our water head, the bubbler, kind of into the tree. So we're going to try to clear those out every few years. And then, it'd probably be really good to clean out the whole thing, but that's a lot of trees to do that.
It's a lot of trees. So yeah, definitely, you're definitely going to need to do that. And we're about 5 years in on the oldest planted trees, and what we're finding, we did this on the mulberries and the pecans here over the last couple of days, and we had some newly planted trees we had to do. And yeah, we're clearing those out. So we're clearing out the main channel. And I'll tell you what, it's wonderful soil.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, all of it. But
it's flat gold.
The tree is still getting water. So that's not, that's not an issue. But yes, it may clog it to where maybe it doesn't get all the way to the back of the tree. It just kind of gets to the front. But
correct. Yeah.
But yes, we will be doing that.
Yeah, so that's going to be... So if you guys want to come over and help, hey, there you go.
Hey, we can do a party and everybody can help us do it.
We're going to clean out irrigation ditches. Come on over.
I'll feed you all lunch.
Keto, of course, so yeah. Hopefully you like meat. I guess maybe we can plant it when there's some fruit off the trees. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But you're definitely going to need to do that. So obviously on a smaller scale, once every 5 years or so, just pull all that wonderful soil out, put it into your garden beds because it's amazing soil.
Yeah.
You can grow right in it. It's just incredibly rich, wonderful black soil that gets created in there.
Yeah.
We just wind up throwing it out because we're just trying to get it out of the way. But yeah, I would do that. And it doesn't take much to reestablish the ring. We did that in the back with all of our new trees. So it takes, 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. You reestablish the ring and, you're good for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So.
With the warmer weather, have you bumped up your watering to weekly?
We have not. So we typically don't do that until we get up to about 100 degrees. So this time of year, the trees all do wonderfully with once a week. So we do 60 gallons once a week. That's the current irrigation schedule. With the exception of the pecans and the mulberries in the back, they're getting 90 because that's kind of our standard for those bigger trees. And we're still doing that once a week. You guys know we haven't gotten any moisture, at least not any serious moisture here recently. And so it doesn't there's nothing in the forecast. So we'll continue to irrigate that way. One of the things we haven't gotten a good picture, we probably should do this and post it on Instagram for everybody, is a shot of the pasture. So we seeded the pasture, the main chicken pasture, late. Usually we seed it right behind the chickens. This time we waited till the chickens were done. We seeded it in November, beginning of November? Beginning of November. And it took a while for the seeds to take, but oh my goodness, that pasture looks fantastic. And so I don't know if it's just a matter of finally having all of those rounds of chickens go across it, that there's finally enough nitrogen in there, but it is beautiful. It's got the perennial rye, and that's filled in better than I've ever seen it. The alfalfa is coming in and it's gorgeous. and that mallow. So of course there's desert mallow
Mallow all over
everywhere,
in there.
everywhere. But I mean, that stuff's growing, what, I'd say probably a good 6 to 8 inches a week.
I just mowed that, 2-3 weeks ago, and I already have to do it again.
Yeah. Now, part of it's because we don't have the new layers on there. We'll share that with you guys here in the first vlog, because obviously they help to keep that down. But yeah, it's impressive. But anyways, yeah. So standards, regular schedule now. We're going to cool off this week again, get back down to kind of normal temperatures, down in the 60s and 70s. I think we tapped the 30 degrees at night, so not quite any frost. I mean, we might get a little bit of frost, but nothing heavy. So, yeah. What else?
What is the chill hour requirement on Reed's sat lap pluary?
I don't know if he knows. So I would imagine because of the Lappin's cherry, it's got to be pretty high. I don't know what that is. I want to say it's 400 or 500 hours. It might be a little bit more than that.
The Lappin's cherry?
Check that real quick. Yeah, let's see if we can do a quick Google search and figure that out. And then the Satsuma plum. But we had a fantastic fruit set year before last. That was our first year getting a fruit set, and it was really strong. And that year, I want to say we probably got a good 500 or 600 hours of chill hours out here. And then last year, we still got a good amount. What is it about? There you go. Hey, it's almost like I knew the answer to that question. So what is it for a Lappin's?
500.
So 500 for a Lappin's, and then do you have a Satsuma, or do we know yet?
This one says 400. So
Yeah.
I got a 400 and a 500.
Okay, so it's about 400 or 500. So you guys in the city are going to be challenged to meet that. Probably most years. You guys are usually around 200 to 300. But obviously for us out here, we're higher. We're right in there. We're right at about that 500. I know Gala apples are about 500 to 600, and we do get a Gala apple set. They never survive, but we do get a good strong set for those. So, what is it saying?
Well, this one up here says 300. This one says 5 to 550.
So I'd say you're probably looking at about 500. I think we're probably safe to say 500 for that one.
All right. And Kevin said on here that he asked Reed for the sat lap, and he has none.
I didn't think that he would. So did he say he's going to have them? Did
I
he
don't
take
know.
cuttings off of here?
No, because when he came out, he came out like late one morning, and then he had to leave or something. I don't know. So he hasn't been back out. So he didn't get all the cuttings that he wanted to get when he was here.
And he didn't come back. So I know it's
a little far for him.
It's a long drive for him. Yeah, no doubt. All right. What else? Any other questions? Are we going to finish early today?
Oh, probably not. All right, so you can do 2 moringas in one hole too, and wrap them around one another while they are young. They grow well together.
Yeah, that's Pam.
That's Pam. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, basically weave the trunks together. Pretty cool.
Question for Ivy Organics: do you mix all of it and save the leftover in liquid form, or do you only mix what you're using that day? Any trees, plants you would not use it on? So
we mix it all at once, and then we store it in the fridge, and we've had it in the fridge for a year or more, and it's still effective. In fact, we just used we had some leftover from last year that we just put onto the pecans, right? Still could smell the wonderful oils, essential oils, and it still coated the tree just fine.
Yeah, so you just put it in the fridge, take it out, and maybe let it sit out for a little bit to warm up a little bit. Shake it really good, stir it really good, and it works just fine.
Yeah, you do have no problems. You do have to stir it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, and you can cut it in half. So you can half it. But just, it's obviously you're kind of eyeballing it to do that. But, it's little guys. If you're doing these little pints, is this a pint? So if you're doing these little pints, you can get several trees with this, and then I would just save it to the following season. Yeah. So if you've got, and actually you may need to reapply it. So, I'll tell you, I think the biggest thing that we found this year is our citrus trees in the front. So my goal was to not do any type of trunk protectant on those now that they're big enough. You guys know we only prune the first couple of feet to make sure we can see down there for rattlesnakes and to make sure we don't have any sucker growth on them. But we've had ground squirrels going up there and starting to munch on the trunks again. So we're going to go back and just put that on there. This is the only stuff that stopped them from doing that. So, and it's designed to do that, between the essential oils, which obviously they don't like the flavor of, and the diatomaceous earth, which anything doesn't like eating, it seems to be the only thing that stops those. And so we're going to reapply, and then we may have to do it a couple times a year at least for the citrus, which seems to be the problem. And I can only assume it's because the citrus bark is smooth and they're eating the bark. It's literally what they're doing because they're peeling the bark off. So it's a little frustrating. But we haven't lost any trees because of it, but I don't want to do any serious damage to them. And this stuff is the only thing that stops them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his second question on there was any trees, plants you would not use it on?
I don't think there's really anything that I wouldn't use it on. We don't. I know that some folks use it on the fruit themselves, but we've never done that. So because they do make a spray, a premixed spray that I know they say you can put directly on there, but no, we don't put it on fruit. We only apply, and you can put it on the leaves as well. I know that's one of the things that some folks will do, put it into a sprayer and put it on the leaves. We haven't done that only because we don't feel that that's necessary. But no, there's not any tree that I wouldn't put it on. We don't put it on any small plants though. So, if you're wanting to protect like if you got a really like tall jalapeno or something like that, we don't generally try to protect the trunks of those. But otherwise, no, it's fine. It's organic. So you can use it on any of them.
Do you have all trees pruned?
Yes. So we finished pruning all of our trees. It was a few weeks ago. We finished with grapevines. You guys will see that video. We're posting a fig pruning. We got all the pruning videos coming out here at the beginning of the year because we needed to get them done. And we wanted to try to cover as many of these as we could for you guys. And our pruning videos do really well. I would say that of all the videos that we do, our irrigation videos and our pruning videos are the ones that most people watch because they're pretty universal and they're evergreen. So it doesn't change from year to year. It's the same process and the same thing. So we want to make sure we get those out for everybody. So you guys will see a fig pruning video tomorrow. We showed several different ways of pruning figs, from small spaces to large to tall trees to keeping them small, increasing production, not concerned about production. How do you go from a multi-trunk tree to a single trunk tree? We've been doing that over a couple years with one of our trees. So we go through all of that. And then next week, you guys will see our last pruning video, which is grapevines, which is the last thing that we prune. And I think we pruned that, about 2 weeks ago? Maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago we did grapevines. It might have been 3 weeks ago. So usually we finish in February. But we're done.
So Kevin said that Reed doesn't have any because he didn't have any donation cuttings to make them.
Well, shoot. We've got them.
Well, he was here, so that's not my problem. So my fruit trees are planted 10 feet on the diagonal. Can I plant moringa in the middle? In the middles.
Assuming that you're in town.
This is Audrey.
Oh, okay, Audrey. So, yeah, you can if you want to. You should still be okay. The only thing would be your moringa trees, if you're going to cut them back every season, they're going to get pretty wide and tall. So just make sure they're not shading your fruit trees because your fruit trees need that full sun. You bouncing back?
No.
Oh, you got some other good pictures there for everybody.
Well, yeah, because I have a question coming up, so I
figured
I might
yeah.
as well
Look at that. You're getting
pull some stuff up.
Look at you. We got some pictures coming for you guys. So Audrey, if you want to, you can. I think that it's a little tight. You've got space, so I would tell you your moringas are probably better. Your moringas need full sun, and your fruit trees need full sun, and you're kind of packing them in there a little bit tight. And you have the space. So I would, if it was me, I would plant them in another area. You've got. I haven't seen your property for a few years, but you got that whole area where it's I think towards the west of your property, the southwest corner. That whole area right there that gets full sun. All of that area would be fantastic. I know you filled a lot of that in, but if you've got any more, and again, these trees they need full sun, but they're okay without it. Even on the whole west side of your property, they would be fine. You've got some of those larger trees there. You can intersperse some moringa down there. It would be just fine. It would do well. What else?
So what is your watering schedule right now with this warm weather?
Right. So right now for most of our trees, it's 60 gallons once per week. For the exceptions to that would be our grapevines. Our grapevines are still once a week. They're getting 12 gallons once a week. We'll double that up as soon as they break dormancy because they haven't yet. And then our large trees, our full-size trees, our black Pakistans, our white Persians, and our pecan trees, those are 90 gallons once a week. And so that will remain here for the next probably couple months. We don't really change that up until we get up to about 100 degrees. Once we start seeing 100-degree days, so probably by April, so next month sometime, then we may go to twice a week. And this year we may even go to 3 because we had some trees struggling last year.
Yeah.
The fig trees in particular really struggled because we had some late frosts and then we got hammered with heat right after that. So those really struggled. So we'll see. And we also want that west or the east side in particular, we may wind up going to 3 days a week here, peak of summer. So, but for now it's once a week. What else?
Have any of your fruit trees flowers yet there?
Well, yes. In fact, Lori's going to do a little show and tell here. You're going to tell everybody what you have pictures of.
Okay, so this is one of our apple trees that has flowers starting. This is an almond tree that has flowers starting.
Those almonds, it's amazing how dense they put flowers on.
I know, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's just beautiful how they do that. You don't want to show everybody your
shopping
list?
I'm kind of going off because I have like all kinds of other pictures in here that you guys probably don't need to see.
That's a beautiful picture though. Go back to that.
I can't remember which one this tree
That's an almond.
is.
That's an almond.
Is that an almond also?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's a Theo.
Yeah, so here's another almond. You want to see my Theo cat? My Theo sleeping on the chair at the front of the house.
Oh my goodness.
I know, look I got so many pictures of him because he was so stinking cute. Okay,
back.
Here's a peach flowers.
You're such a cat lady.
We got some peaches already starting to set fruit. Oh, there's my cats again.
Okay, that's enough. We've seen enough cat pictures.
Okay, guys, I don't have grandkids yet, so my phone is like full of pictures of my animals.
It is. You're right, and you are.
Especially my cats.
But I was about to say, let's be honest. You are a cat person.
Oh my goodness, so much so.
Yeah, we've determined that now that we've had the dogs, that we are definitely cat people. I am as well.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. I would have never guessed that because I've never. I had dogs when I was a little kid, but never really had pets.
Yeah.
And
so, don't get us wrong. We really like our dogs. Yeah. Especially Sasha.
Pain in the tail, but
Sasha is the biggest sweetheart ever. But
she is. She's a gentle giant, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Unless you're a ground squirrel, a rabbit, a balloon, a hot air balloon. She hates hot air balloons. I don't know. Other random dogs. If you're cattle walking by, no, none of that. People though, oh my goodness, that girl, she'll bark at you, but that's about it.
She like gets up to you and like she tries to roll into you.
Yeah, she literally does. She
wants to be in your lap. She wants to be a lap dog.
She wants to be a lap dog. She's probably 120 pounds plus, and she thinks she's a lap dog. Yeah. It's not going to work, girl.
Yeah, pretty funny. All right, so Mary was asking about watering again. I think you'd covered that after she had asked the question. So yes, right now it's weekly, 60 gallons once a week. Did you use to prune a new planted tree, and if so, how?
So yes, we do always prune at planting. Well, not always. It depends on the tree itself, but we typically do pruning at planting. If you're going to be if you're going to be establishing a low trunk, you definitely do that at planting. And so, so if you get a really tall trunk, especially on your stone fruit and pome fruit, where you want a lower trunk with an open center, we do lop that off at planting, especially if it's a bare root tree. So bare root trees can usually take some pretty aggressive pruning and almost really kind of need it, only because that tree has been used to a much larger root mass. It gets cut way back after it gets cut out of the ground in the fall. And so it really can't take very long branching. So yeah, definitely those trees.
What are your thoughts of using neem oil? Will it be effective against pests, bugs, etc.?
So we didn't cover it this year because I don't know. We want to see whether or not it is effective. So to answer your question, we don't know whether or not it's effective. So we did start for the first time ever. We did a dormant spray. Did it just a few weeks ago, and we did a combination of neem, organic neem, and organic copper. So we have both of those in our Amazon shop. If you want to see what we used, it's under the fertilizing and chemicals idea list. So you can see what we used, both are organic options. So we did a combination of those two because you can do them together. And we sprayed it on 2 specific plants. We sprayed it on our pear trees, which have gotten some blight over the last few years. We wanted to see if we can knock that back or down, or hopefully eliminate it completely. And we put it onto our grapevines that have had a serious infestation of whiteflies for the last 2 years. Now, I don't know that it will necessarily help that, but I've read a few things that it might. And you can utilize that during the growing season, neem in particular. And neem is good for those flying insects. So we're going to be trying those on those 2 areas because we've had some issues, and we're going to share that with you guys once we've determined whether or not it's going to work. So we didn't want, a lot of times folks will watch what we do and then assume that it's the right thing to do or that it's a good thing or that it's going to be effective. And so we're cautious these days with showing those things before we know whether or not they actually work. So we don't know for sure. So we'll see. But it should. I mean, these organic pest control or the copper for your fungicide, these organic options have been around for a long time, and they are effective. So, I have read that they can be effective. And I think at this point, it's not going to hurt those plants. But at the same time, do you need to? I don't know that we necessarily do, because we've never used them before. And we've been growing fruit trees here for the better part of 20 years and real aggressively for the last 15. And we've just never done it. So, what else?
How often do you spray the copper?
So we've only done it once. Now, copper, I don't know that you'd want to do that necessarily during the growing season. So we only do that here during the wintertime. Now, we did not have those. Ooh, it's getting a bit windy out there.
It is. I hear it.
That's pretty exciting. Hopefully we don't lose our internet connection, because that happens from time to time. But the copper is really a dormancy spray. I believe you can still use it during the growing season, but I don't know that I would here. Either way, it is during the fall. So we will be doing a double spray next year, depending on how they work this year. But typically it's done basically right at leaf drop and then again before bud break. That's typically when you apply that. So we just did it once during the dormancy season before bud break. So we'll see.
Haven't seen your ducks in a while. What do you do with them? Pets, food, eggs?
So, not food. These ducks are not, well, I suppose the muscovies would be good eating. I don't know about now. They're kind of old for that. I don't think I'd do that with them, but they're all fine. So in fact, we lost one of the white layers last summer, but I think it was to Fred. He's really aggressive when Wilma is laying. That's our geese. And so, either way, no, they just started laying nice and heavy. So it's mainly egg production. And that's just because they're cool. We like those birds. It's just kind of neat to have them quacking and, the geese, giving everybody a hard time.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, I don't know who it was, one of our neighbors said, he went outside for the first time and said, "Did I just hear ducks quacking? Is that a goose?" Because you're not expecting it out here, because they're pretty chatty.
Yeah, but we do. We actually eat the duck eggs. That's what we eat. One, we never have chicken eggs
We're always sold out of chicken eggs
on hand, but we actually prefer duck eggs over the chicken eggs. But we haven't done a vlog since November, so that's probably why you haven't seen them.
Yeah,
and
you'll see them soon.
Yeah,
so
we'll get updates on everything here soon.
We're almost done with the how-to videos. You guys got another month or so of that, so we just want to get those out there for everybody, and so it's coming. Yeah. What else? Are we done?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So what pluary varieties do well here?
So the only 2 that we have done would be the Sweet Treat Pluary, which is pretty common. That's usually fairly easy to find, and the Satlap from Reed. And we talked about the Satlap earlier, so I don't know when or if he'll ever have that again, which is a shame. It's a fantastic fruit. But the Sweet Treat Pluary is also very, very good and does taste a lot like a cherry, about the same size, and they're fairly easy to find. It's been a fantastic one for us as well. Very, very productive. And the tree is big and beautiful. So I think you would be hard-pressed to actually keep that tree in line from a pruning standpoint, although you could do it. But it's a very, very good, high-quality fruit and a very good tree. So what'd you do?
It totally just went out on me.
There you go.
And I had to reload it.
There you go. So you just need to scroll down.
I'm right here.
Good.
Yeah.
What
How
else?
many hours does it take you to hit 60 gallons of water each week?
So our trees are on half gallon per minute bubbler, so it takes 2 hours. So all of our main zones run for 2 hours in the middle of the night, and that's how we get to that. I will tell you, if you have not done your irrigation yet, and you have so the challenge that we have is we only get about 13 gallons of flow out of the wellhead. And when we measured that out on the farm when we were doing the irrigation, 13 gallons is our max. So all of our zones have to run at 12 gallons or less, and we pretty much have them all at about 12 gallons. And with the number of trees that we have here, we have 24 trees on a zone. And so we had to do a half gallon per minute. The back of the farm, we have 1 gallon per minute bubblers. And so it takes an hour and a half to do 90 gallons on the big trees in the back. And I would tell you, if you're able to do 1 gallon per minute, I would prefer it. Because then you get a nice heavy soak every time that runs. But yeah, that's the timing for us. What else?
Did every moringa tree survive this winter?
Yes, I think.
Well, I have a few we have a handful that have not started leafing out yet, but they still look alive. They still look green down on
and
the trunk.
every one that has is just barely broken.
Yeah.
Dormancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it looks so. There was only one.
Like.
We planted one last year that replaced one that we planted the year before. And I think we've talked a little bit about this. We have finally narrowed down exactly how to do moringa trees here in Arizona and have the best chance of success. And again, in Arizona. So you need to direct seed them. It's very important that you direct seed them. And you need to do it at the beginning of the monsoon season. So we planted at the end of June last year. Year before that, we planted at the end or the beginning of July, because usually, middle to the end of June. So basically, end of June, beginning of July is basically the start of our monsoon season. It's that first rain or the first clouds that you see coming through. So basically, last week of June, first couple weeks of July, that's when you plant direct seed into the ground. You're going to have your most success. We've had almost 100% success doing that. We've failed many times over doing it differently. So we planted seeds in August. That tree died. Even though the caliper of that tree was probably about 1.5 inches or so, that tree still died over the wintertime. We've planted in May, lost trees in June. We've planted trees in September, potted trees in September, and had those die in November. And so again, our cold is a problem, and our dry heat in June is a problem for newly started moringa trees. And so, we're now would not necessarily be the time, but you could try it. You would want to get the seeds in the ground right now, though. Right now. And hope that we don't get 125-degree days in June. Because if you do, you're going to lose that tree. Unless you shade it, because you'll have to shade it. So, yeah. What else?
Of about 8 different varieties of fig trees, only one has been producing good fruit for me. I don't think I have my watering down, but I can't tell if I'm over or under watering.
So underwatering is fairly easy to tell because the leaves themselves will crisp if you're not watering enough, and we get that. We got that last year. That happened to us, and we didn't catch it in time. So I will tell you. So you guys know we're big fans of low and slow, and deep, infrequent when it comes to watering. I will tell you, with fig trees, you can definitely get away with a lot more water. So the best producing fig trees last year, we got very little production last year because we lost our main crop with the late frosts. But our best looking, growing, and producing trees were all where?
In the duck area.
Yep, and why?
Because I have 3 water bowls, tanks in there for them that I dump out and, refill pretty much every day. Sometimes I'll do every other day. And so those trees are getting water all the time.
So they're getting water probably every other day.
Yeah,
all the way through the summer.
Yeah.
And so, so I will tell you, chances are good. It probably isn't enough. It's doubtful that it's too much.
Yeah.
But so you might want to consider that. And then varieties can make a difference as well. If you're getting fruit set and the fruit's not ripening, it's staying green or whatever, we've got a couple varieties that do the same. So like the Cadota, we have not done well with the Cadota. Same thing with the Peter's Honey. Neither one of those have done well. So we've gotten a few ripe pieces of fruit, but it's nothing like the brown turkey and the blackjack and the Reed's White and the VS and the Violet de Bordeaux and the Black Mission. All the panache. So all those varieties fruit well and ripen well. These are all in this. They're planted exactly the same. We prune them basically the same. They get the same water, same fertilization, and the Cadota does not ripen well at all, if at all, and the Peter's honey doesn't ripen if at all. So, and then the Olympia fig has a really hard time ripening as well. So, there are some varieties, and my assumption is it's probably moisture. So, figs grow in a lot of different environments. We're very, very dry here, and I know those figs do well elsewhere, and some folks here have good luck with those.
Yeah.
And so, but they're much more controlled than we are here because we don't have the time to baby these trees. And so, they're kind of out on their own. But another reason why we're going to go to probably 3 days a week here come June on the zone that has our figs on it.
Yeah.
So to make sure that we give them some extra water, because we saw last year our best looking trees were the ones that get watered at least a few times a week. So, yeah.
So Sarah said that she lucked out and planted moringa in mid-August, and they all survived the winter.
That's a good sign. So,
Yeah.
and I think what the advantage that we had this winter is we did not get very cold very often, and it was very late.
Yeah.
So, we had growth. I mean, those trees were growing into December,
Yeah.
which is not normal. So, yeah, I think you lucked out because we had the exact same scenario in August, and we lost that tree, even though it was nice and big, because the fall that year, we're talking about last winter, not this past winter, last year, 23-24, we had very, very cold weather throughout the winter time, and it started early, and we lost that tree. Everybody else was fine, but we lost that one. So, but I'm glad to hear that it survived for you. That's good.
Yeah. Do you have late spring frost every year?
We generally do wind up with some. In fact, it's probably going to happen to us next week. So we are down into the high 30s. You guys won't be in the city, but we are. So we're going to tap the 30-degree mark here, I think, beginning of the week, if I'm not mistaken. So you guys won't get down that far. Your forecast is low 40s. So, maybe a little bit of chill hours, but definitely not frost. So yeah, it's pretty common for us to see frost. Now, that's usually into March, definitely not into April. And last year we had it, I think it was the second or third week of April. We had a hard frost in April.
Yeah.
So that was really odd because we got down to the low 30s. That was really, really strange. But that's very uncommon.
Do you have issues with the bees, FI wax moth, or the Asian hornet?
So I don't know the answer to that question. And bees, speaking of bees, have we talked about the fact that we don't have our bees on the farm anymore? I don't know that we have. So we relocated our bees. I don't know that we have. So we relocated the bees to Nate and Tara. So Nate and Tara have those now, our neighbors. The folks we didn't want bees. So we had a couple that that put everything together and was taking care of the bees. And we specifically said it's not something we wanted to do. And so they got busy to do with these bees, and we relocated them next door. And so, but I don't know because we didn't take care of the bees. So that wasn't our responsibility. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. But we haven't had issues with the bees, and I'm not familiar with the wax moth or Asian hornet to know, that. Came in late, but what do you use to keep stone fruit safe from Japanese beetles?
So we don't have an issue with the Japanese beetle and the stone fruit. So usually the Japanese beetles come out like during fig season, and their fig eater beetles is one of the ways they're referenced, and they will eat the figs and they'll eat the jujubes. So typically they're going after those.
They go after even the like apples and pears, some too.
Some, but not a lot. So usually most of the fruit's already gone by the time they're around. So, and again, varieties. So, we don't have any of those varieties that are ripe in July. So usually they're kind of flying around come end of June, July, monsoon season. We don't have anything ripe on the trees at that point for our stone fruit. So they're already done.
Yeah. Do you prefer bubblers to drippers?
Yes, always, 100% of the time. So we have had good success with drip emitters. You definitely can do them. But we have had much more success with the bubblers. And the biggest reason is because, you have to saturate the soil, all of the soil really well. And as trees get bigger, you have to add multiple emitters, and they're just hard to manage. So it's not that they don't work, they're fine, but you're going to have to drench the soil probably a few times a year because you're going to get some salt buildup because the drip emitters are not going to flood it. So that flooding really does serve more than one purpose. But bubblers don't flood heavily either. So, but they're much easier. They're much easier to manage. Drip emitters, they get chewed off by things. They fall off. They eventually need to be replaced. Again, you're gonna have to expand them as the tree gets bigger. So, we prefer not to use them. So, but you know what? They work just fine, and we've got trees on it. So there's trees here where we don't have a choice.
Our last property, all of our trees were on drip.
Every single one of them, and they did just fine.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're fine. Are we at time?
We are at time.
Very good.
So if there any last questions come in, we'll try to get to those. If not, we will get to those next week.
All right, very good. So this has been the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 48. Want to thank you guys for today. Really good information, I think, today. A lot of great questions from you guys. If you guys have questions for the show, send them in to us during the week. You can email us, message us on Facebook or Instagram, comment on YouTube somewhere. Commenting here today, we don't necessarily see it later on because we don't necessarily see these, but we definitely see other YouTube comments. You can also email us. Lori's phone number is all over the internet. You can text her too.
I text people all the time.
Yeah, it happens. Random strangers. But but send those in. We want to make sure this show is for you guys. So we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that you want. But I really appreciate you guys being here today. Time is the most valuable thing that we have here on the planet. You guys choose to spend that with us. This is one of the ways that we want to give back to you guys for taking the time out to do that. Watching the videos, sitting through the commercials, which obviously you guys are always doing, right? Because that's how we get paid. But, this is our way of giving back. Just want to thank you guys. So now, this is a weekly show. We do this every Saturday at 2 o'clock Arizona time. And we hope to see you guys next week. So with that, any last questions, or are we good to go?
I do not see any last questions.
Very good. Guys, enjoy the wonderful weather this week. We will see you guys in a week. And until next time, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.